my sister Sabrina says, Grand Rising. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Jazz Stories told by Blackwood Davis. I'm Capri St. Phil, joining you from Panama City, and today I decided to use the backdrop of Panama City. My husband, Will St. Phil.
Sawubona. Welcome to Jazz Stories told by Blackwood Davis.
I said he doesn't have to use a backdrop because that's actually right out our window, living room window. Our unbelievable director, Nico Concepcion. Hey, Nico.
Hi everyone. Good evening, good morning. Mayong gabi from the Philippines. By the way, I'm from Bacolod City, and it's a pleasure to share our podcast to everyone listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nico. And of course, the man of the hour. You're going to be a little confused because today he has on a San Francisco background, my father, Blackwood Davis. Hi, Dad.
Hi guys, how y'all doing? Like they say in the jazz world, blues that swing, right on.
Okay. So we're going to jump right on in, Dad, because we have to sort of really roll the reel back because we have some people asking us a bit more about to give them albums, to give them a little bit more context. And I know sometimes I start asking all these questions and all, so I'm going to try to guide this time. And we're going to roll the reel back because we have to revisit Miles Davis.
All right.
I have to bring it back to Miles. Now, there's some things you said that, actually went over my head. And as a result, I didn't hit on it the way I should. And I'm going to try to do it this time. So let's go back. You had said that how what's unique about Miles is that he was a part of and a founder of 5 different styles.
Yes, he was. Well, I don't know if it's 5 or 4, but how they said, Miles just kept reinventing himself. And the majority of the jazz musicians you look at through the course of their history, there might be 1 or 2. I think Miles was in a unique situation. He not only was there for bebop, he was there for hard bop. He also came in there with fusion, or before fusion, what they call it,
Modal.
modal,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got into fusion, and then he hit the what's the name trail, what they call it, the Fillmore East, He made his most money in one day at the Fillmore East. They signed him for $17,000 to appear there that one night. He made more money on one night at Fillmore East, I think, of any concert or whatnot he had jazz-wise. And you got to understand, Miles come out of money now. He wasn't like a lot of the guys that struggle, financially. His father was a dentist who eventually wound up getting into these European pigs, and that's what he put his money into these pigs. To sell these pigs on the meat market. They said Miles had a portfolio, a stock portfolio, blue chip stock. How true this is, I don't know. But I guess it had to be true. He's riding around with a Ferrari.
I can see Miles in a Ferrari, yes.
And I heard the story about his car in LA that he had to make sure, like his agent had told some of law enforcement because they couldn't believe a black man at that time. Because what time period are we talking about that's driving in a Ferrari? So let them know, this is his car.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was around the 50s, 60s.
Wow.
Matter of fact, probably still today that might hold true.
But definitely in the 50s and 60s.
Hey, like they say, driving while black. You never know with that,
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely 100% correct. So to here's Miles Davis with a Ferrari. And of course, for us nowadays, $17,000 making it at the Fillmore is like, what? That's not, but again, we have to keep it in
Oh no, at that
context.
time that was a lot of money,
Hmm.
because if I'm not mistaken, when what was her name? Diana Ross, when she signed a contract with RCA, just to, just signing the contract, she made $75,000. That was a lot of money back then, man. A lot of money. So we're just looking at inflation, how it has, but back then, $17,000.
Okay, let's go a little bit also where how much perhaps we paid to see a concert back then. This is
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we went to Carnegie Hall. I think the most expensive seat was less than $10. The cheapest seat was $2. And you didn't see one act, you saw 3 or 4 acts. There was one concert with Monk, Ella Fitzgerald, I think Dizzy Gillespie, and I forgot the fourth one who was there, man. But that was like, today that's unheard of. They don't even do
Oh,
that
yeah.
no more.
Yeah, you're not going to get that.
No,
You're not going to get a show like that anymore,
No,
for
no.
sure.
And
Hey, in fact, I'm looking to give people, because Nico just finished saying that before we got on, they had to thank you for, or at least acknowledging, not thank you, acknowledging the New York Knicks and their championship. And I don't know why, but I had downloaded, and now it's as a part of one of my potential virtual backgrounds, let me see if I can actually even put this up. You see that? It's so funny. This
Wow.
is for courtside seats for the New York Knicks. And I don't know if I moved to the side, if you can see how much it was for.
Well
$12.
Yes, you
done.
can.
$12. $12.
wow.
So yeah, it's we have to be clear that how much things cost at one time. But anyway, let's not get back and go into the economics and make all of us feel sad because we're over here paying God knows how much for tickets now. So I want to go back because in terms of Miles Davis, now, looking at him being a part of a founder of Five Styles. When I looked it up, it talked about hard bop, cool jazz, modal, am I saying that right? Modal jazz, jazz fusion, and electric jazz. I'm going to just look at 3 of them for right now and have you just talk to us a little bit and talk about some of the albums and all for those periods. Let's start with cool jazz. And now, Dad, I want you to say again, because when I was looking up on it, it was like cool jazz was moving away from that sort of the frantic pace of bebop. And I remember you saying how Miles used to have a hard time keeping that pace, and something that Dizzy said to him, because that was his
Yeah, well,
mentor.
if you could find some of the old sides he did with Bird, he was playing that, he was playing them up tempo things. And whatever, he must have ran into Dizzy and told him, boy, I'm struggling, And Diz told him, you don't hear that, don't play it. So then he started developing what Miles came to be known for, that laid back thing he did. I mean, he was, to me, no one could do it better than Miles. It's understatements he would do. He found out to play less is better than playing that much more.
And less is good. So I'm going to go into, because people wanted us to give them a little bit of context on some of the albums. So when I looked up for cool jazz, it talked about the landmark 1957 compilation album, Birth of the Cool.
Oh yeah, well now that was right. That was a lot of people might not be able to get into that, but that was him and Gil Evans had got together doing that, the Birth for the Cool. And Miles made it a point when he did that date, he picked an alto saxophone, but he didn't want the bird sound. So he got this guy named Lee Konitz, come out of Chicago. Uh, he made a name for himself in the jazz world, you know. But Lee had a different sound, you know, and so that's what he wanted. But on that date, he had a French horn, I think a tuba, and he had Gary Mulligan. He had a lot, you know, John Lewis. I forgot who was on drums. I think it might have been Shelly Mann. I can't remember. But they was more like the beginning of third stream music, where they was reaching, trying to get a lot of the, you could see they was reaching for some classical innovations in the music at that time. So a lot of people might not be ready for that one. They could, but that's a good one to start. I would say I would ask somebody, well, get walking. And then I would say something else. Now, something else was with Cannonball Adderley. That came a lot later. But that was, you know, what they call straight ahead, you know, right down Broadway, you know. And originally the date was Cannonball Adderley. Now that today, you know, then you can go to, if you're looking through it, let's say like the old days, looking through the record collection or record store, you would see it under Miles and you would also see it under Cannonball Adderley. But that was Cannonball's date. It's on Blue Note. That's a bad date. That's a bad date. And so I would lay with those two first.
Okay. Okay.
Then I would say and if someone wanted to try Birth for the Cool, by all means, go for it. You know, it gets a little, you can see they're getting a little, stretching it out a bit. They're going somewhere else with it, you know. See where it's walking and that's right down, that's down to earth, you know.
So I'm looking at this whole sort of the evolution of Miles. I want you to talk a little bit about, because this is a whole different, and this is probably the sound that I know more. What were your thoughts when you first heard Miles moving in that direction?
Oh no, when I first heard Miles, I was taken back when Miles. And I didn't mind when he started doing things like Birth for the Cool, Porgy and Bess, Sketches in Spain, Miles plus 21. I was so in awe with Miles. Yeah, man, I wanted to hear it. When he started getting away from me when he did things like Jack Johnson, and when he started going into that, I guess, fusion.
Yeah.
I wasn't too crazy about that. When he started miking his horn up and whatnot, no. I don't like all those gimmicks, man. I don't even like electric bass, but I listen to it. I ain't crazy about organ, but I'll listen to it. I like acoustic instrument, upright bass, acoustic piano. The only I can listen to a electric guitar or what they call acoustic. They're both good with me, you know. But when he started doing that, you know, he started leaving me, and I kind of like stopped listening, you know.
Well, the evolution of Miles. Because, you know, hey, for all of us, we're evolving. It doesn't mean that other people are evolving with us or want to.
Oh, yeah.
Or want to go in that direction.
You see, now, when you listen to Miles, well, the school I come out of, or the school where when we was growing up with it, you know, it was a romantic period for the jazz. Jazz was very lyrical back then. It stayed like that until Train came along. And then it went totally another direction.
Okay. So also I want to make sure that people understand. So when we're talking about cool jazz, you know, and even some of the time periods that we're looking at, because the birth of the cool was 1957.
Right.
But for some of his albums, we're looking at basically the 50s, mid 50s.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of his, to me, some of his greatest, you know, there's a period in every musician's life, especially a jazz musician, that when their creative juices, what they call it, is like, yeah, on point.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes and goes. You don't be on point all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like Freddie Hubbard, he asked them one time, well, when was your creative juices like, yeah, like on? And he said when he was doing them things for CTI, you know, Red Clay and all those dates. And the guy said, what happened? He said, whatever came in my head, I could play it. To me, that's fantastic. Whatever comes to your head, you can play.
So was that when Freddie Hubbard did Mardi Gras, probably his most famous piece?
What's that again?
Freddie Hubbard did Mardi Gras. Was that his most popular piece of music?
Oh, well, he had a few. He had Red Clay. What was the other one? Or even before then, Hub Tones, when he was playing straight ahead stuff. By the time he got into Red Clay and the one you're talking about, and right now I have to do some research because the son left me. Freddie Hubbard was strong as a bull, and he was doing things on the trumpet at that time. Oh my God!
Yeah, my favorite piece that he did was Mardi Gras. I played that over and over again. There was a hole in that record when as much as I played it.
No, he was Freddie Hubbard. He was a monster on the horn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very technical, and he was very lyrical. But he was strong as a bull, man. Oh God, stuff he was doing. Woo. And that's what messed his chops up eventually. Because he would come on a set or a stage, if he heard you up there playing, he wouldn't even warm up. He'd get up there and just start playing. Oh. But that horn, the trumpet, you know, everything like anything else, like an athlete's got to warm up. Same thing with, you know, people playing an instrument, you got to warm up, you know. And
I guess I did see him one of those nights, Sunday night at Village Gate, when they had the jam sessions. He didn't warm up. Yeah. He just jumped on.
Yeah, and see, that's what. And he even said himself. He said that as you get older, that's when you start seeing the residual effects of it. And trumpet.
Unforgiving.
Oh, you got it. You hit it right on the head. Unforgiving instrument. It takes no quarters, man. No quarters.
Yeah.
But getting back to your guys and Miles, I'm sorry we drifted away, but
No, because we're gonna do a little drifting also. I'm gonna come back to Miles, but I'm glad Willard brought up the Village Gate because I want to talk about some of the places too that this was taking place at in New York City. But going back, I'm sorry for stepping in. Going back to Miles.
Go ahead. Now, what you want to know? What else you want to know?
Well, you know, because it's interesting. Like Willard just said, the Village Gate, but then you also talked about how Miles is now playing at Carnegie Hall. Was it like for Miles? Was it changing in that from small club to like being at larger spaces?
Well, you know, that didn't happen to a little, you know, when he got into fusion.
Oh,
He
okay.
said, "Oh wow, man! I mean, he he was making big money back then, man. I mean, and he was coming up with the different groups. He had Chick Corea, Kenny Garrett, a whole bunch of different musicians in his band, and you know, his whole format started to change. After he to Miles had okay. If you look at Miles Davis, he had one of the when he had Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, Philly Joe Jones, Red Garland, and Paul Chambers. They call that the jazz group. That was like
Is that a quintet?
it was a quintet. That was
okay.
the quintessential of a great, great band.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, nobody has come to that equal. He had that band was wow, historical. They rate that band like they did back when they was rating, Louis Armstrong's band or, groups with Baby Doll. It's just like one of the greatest bands ever, ever, ever.
Okay, so I'm going to get back into the different styles and some of the albums as people wanted to know a little bit. And I hope I'm not mispronouncing it in terms of modal jazz. That was one of the sounds that he developed. And it talked about how it stripped away complex chord progressions in favor. And this is what I said, oh, now I got it, of exploring single and melodic freedom. And the album that they put up is Kind of Blue. And this is a good one for us, Willard, because it was produced in 1959.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know, all that is details about modal. But you say, okay, up until modal, the whole concept was chord changes. So a jazz musician was walking around inside their heads, male or female. It's like a repository of all the different chords that you could play and all the different scales and chords within that scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what happened, the guy, you didn't play the whole chord. You took certain notes out of it to take you from here to the next bar, to go into another chord. And you didn't play the whole chord. You took notes out of that one and went to that, but you knew what that chord was. So I went from a 7th to a 9th to a 13th to a this to a that to a minor, a major, a diminished. You had to be aware of all this. When you got down to modal, it's like notes, or just one or two or three notes put you in this modal key or whatever it was. I'm not that familiar with it, but I do know it freed up for you to be so intense with the chord changes.
Mm-hmm.
If you knew the modal, oh yeah. So you could go from one modal to another one. Now, a good musician could go from modal back and forth. And like Jackie McLean said, he was into modal. He got into it. And guys got on when he would go back to, playing his changes. And he said, I ain't listening to you guys no more. You know how many years it took me to learn how to play these changes? And like Cannonball, he was never into modal, Cannonball. He was in the chord changes, but Cannonball was a disciple of the blues. That's all he ever played, blues. That's all Charlie Parker played was blues. but it just wasn't basic blues. You know, they had compounded it with the rhythm and the chordal or the chordal work on it, how they expanded it.
Mm-hmm.
And when when Cannonball was with Miles, he told Train, he said, "No, man, let's stay with that." He said, "You hear that, I don't." He says, "I'm leaving." That's when he left Miles Davis to form his own group. But Train adopted it immediately
Mm-hmm.
because he could hear that stuff. And Bill Evans that's why he got Bill Evans on that date, because he's playing nothing but modal.
I
But
think
the guy
I'm getting it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, huh?
No. I said, I think I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And I hope other people, are getting it. Because I know when you had mentioned modal before, I didn't really step into it because I didn't know enough to step into it. So I started doing a little research. And again, I would recommend for everyone, it is so important to have that information to preserve the culture and to start getting the albums to preserve the culture.
Right.
But anyway.
Now, Bill Evans, see, that's why Miles got Bill Evans to play on that date. But I think he's only on one tune on that date. And so he was going back and forth. Miles was going back and forth. He had Whitney Kelly on that date also. Now, Whitney was definitely not modal. Whitney was in the chord changes. That hard bop school.
See, that's why it'll be interesting if you like taking Miles, for instance, because he did so, his evolution of Miles. It is interesting then if you start listening to certain albums to begin getting that sort of feel of the evolution of the changes and the things that he was doing. The very, when you hear about that bop and that Charlie Parker, that's the blues. It's the blues. It's a more complex, let's say, chord. But it's the blues. And that as Miles, and then you can stop me at any time, Dad, and say, you don't know what you're talking about. So, and as Miles, got into this sort of much more lyrical, let's say, classical, I don't know, style.
Well, Miles was always lyrical. Always. To me, Miles was extremely lyrical. Extremely. You listen to the things that he did, like on Walking or Round About Midnight or something else. You just watch how he, like opens up a line, and then how he takes that line and embellishes on it. And he just keeps on from one embellishment to another one, to another one, to another one, to another one, to another one. And half the time Miles be doing this, Miles was a master at playing space. It's what he wasn't saying was important. Because when he came in to say something, wow, it was like he shocked you. He would lay out for like a whole bar.